I'll just kick off and start chit-chatting away with, my name's Nikki Snell, and this is my colleague Celine at Loft. And we just want to say a huge thank you to Harrogate at Home and Top Drawer Connected for having us. We will be taking you through all sorts of pro PR tips and tricks to help you either start your PR from the very first piece of coverage or take you to the next level if you're a pro and you've done it absolutely loads before. Just before we start chatting about PR, I'm just going to let you know that the Top Drawer guys and Home Gift guys, they've been working so hard behind the scenes to give you some really great content to help your businesses at what we all know is a really, really tricky time. So if you've got any particular areas that you want covered, so anything from marketing related like we'll be talking about, or accounts or anything at all, just drop us a line in the chat, and then Dana and Chris, who are over there also from Loft, will pass the information on to the guys and they will bring you lots more great content. So I am Nikki Snell. I'm the founder of two PR companies that really help interiors and gifts brands get in the press. So the first company that I launched a long, long time ago is 0 to 1 PR. So it's an agency which actually helps brands to generate the coverage. So we generate the coverage for them. Then off the back of that, we launched a platform called Loft, which is a big, big PR platform, but it helps brands to do their own PR. And it makes it really super easy with lots of different PR tools that we've got there. But we've also got a massive network of journalists and bloggers and influencers who are looking to feature those brands. So all in all, gosh, we've generated, I think, about 1 million pieces of press coverage over the years. So yeah, quite a lot. And we've worked with 20,000 brands, but it means that we've learned lots of tips and tricks to do along the way, but also lots of things not to do. And so we've put together a little sequence of things to talk about today, and we'll take you through that in a bit. But before I start, I just want to get a gauge of how many of you have done PR before. So I've got a poll, which I'm just going to launch now. If you guys could fill that out. So it's how much press coverage have you generated before? 0, 1 to 10, 11 to 100, or over 100? Oh, loads of you are answering. This is amazing. Okay, so this is lovely. We've been practicing this behind the scenes with no data, so this is lovely. So we've got at the moment 40% of you are on 0, which is awesome because you'll be the ones who'll benefit the absolute most out of this. 40% of you are on 1 to 10, and then we've got 9% of you with over 100. So that makes me slightly
amazing.
So we'll just end that now, and I'll share the data with you here.
Amazing.
See? Yeah, cool. So just whilst we're chatting, my colleagues, like I said, Dana and Chris, are going to be on the chat. So please use the Q&A function for any PR related questions. It just helps them to keep track of it better. And then use the chat for just general chit chat stuff. So they're over there. That's Dana and Chris. And then this is Celine Devere. She's the marketing manager of Loft, and she'll be sort of co-hosting it today with me. I'm just going to stop sharing that now. That's great. Okay, so where should we start? Should we start with a summary of what we're going to cover?
Yeah, so I'm going to just share with you what we're going to talk about. So we decided to do kind of a Q&A, so I'm just going to ask a lot of questions to Nikki, and she will just be sharing everything that she's learned over the years. So we are going to speak about, first of all, why do PR and why bother do PR, because obviously it's very important to know why you do it. Then we are going to give you a few tips on how to find journalists for free over the internet and build your own database of contacts. We are going to speak about what product and when to promote your products to generate more press coverage. And then we're going to speak about how to research trends, because it's very important, and Nikki will speak about that. And then speak about press release and how to write a press release, few tips on how to structure and write your press release. So a lot of content. At the end, Nikki will be sharing a link on how to get all of those freebies. So please stick around until the end, until we just share this link so you can just download all of the things that we are going to talk about today.
Yeah, so we've got a press release template. We've got a list of influencers that we recommend following and working with if you can. We've got a link to a PR planner, a calendar, a free trial on Loft, and information. We're recording a PR course at the moment, so we've got information on that as well. So yeah, please stick around to the end because we'll send all those to you. So yeah, I think we'll kick off with why bother doing PR. I think would be a good one.
So yeah, if you can just talk to us about why do PR and why bother do PR. I think a lot of brands are always wondering, why should I do PR and what are the benefits? So if you can just
Yeah, I'll kick off. Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting one. We're all, we're all busy, whether you own a business, work in a business, we've all got a million and one things that we could or should be doing. And PR is one of those things that people go, is it really, really worth it? And I think if you look at it just from a perspective of, right, I've been in the Times, I've had 10 sales or 20 sales or none, like, that's not the only measurement of it. And I think it's really important to understand the SEO benefits, so search engine optimization. So just a very quick little summary of what it is. If you type in Google red sofas, all that list that you see on the pages is called the search engine results placements, or the SERPs. You just want to be at the highest point on there, because the more visibility you've got on Google, the more sales you're going to make. So SEO in a very, very tiny nutshell, but PR really influences that. And I'm just going to share my screen and show you why it impacts that. So can you all see that, hopefully? So if we go over to, I've just jumped ahead of myself. So if we just go to Google and type in botanical wallpaper, one of the key search terms there. So that is botanical wallpaper. And one of our lovely clients, Woodchip and Magnolia, appear, and they're top of the list, which is amazing. They're above Wayfair, they're above Etsy, they're above Amazon. So really good position for an important key term for them. And now I'm just going to show you now why they are, one of the reasons I should say, that they're in that position. So if you hop over to the news section and you've got your search term, and then just add to the end of that the brand name.
So this is in the news section, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, in the news section. So you've just gone from all the general search over to news. And then here you've got listed all the lovely press coverage that they've had. Partly some of it's from Pressloft, which is great. But they've got homes and properties, they've got living, etc., house beautiful, real homes. So you can just do a quick check to see your brand health in terms of those backlinks. So just to clarify, those links have a URL link back to Woodchip and Magnolia's website. And that point, that link, that backlink, tells Google, oh, Woodchip and Magnolia are really good about wallpaper trends, or botanical wallpapers, or wallpaper trends for 2020. And over time, this builds up something called your link juice, or basically your SEO, and it means that you'll get better search positions over time. And that's really, really important. So that's the SEO element. That's one element of a benefit of PR. Now, the other one, I'm just going to hop over here. So if you go to Chalk Pink Linen Company, they have had lots of lovely press coverage. And like I said, they've not just sat there and gone, oh my gosh, we've been in the Independent, this is amazing. They've actually put a mention of that on their website. So they've put here, this bedding set had us cooing from the moment we opened the box. I mean, that's lovely that the Independent have said that. And you scroll down here, and you can see some lovely logos that they've popped in here. And this is all going to help convert more clients to sales, and that's called conversion rate optimization. And it's another reason why PR is great, and it's print PR as well as online PR in this instance. And it means that yeah, hopefully you'll get more people buying from you because they trust you. So it's called third party endorsement. So it's just someone else saying you're amazing, and that is supposed to be 3 times more effective than advertising, according to various studies. So that's third-party endorsement, and it's just really impactful, especially when you use it like this on your website. Another example here is House Cozy. So lovely new brand that we've worked with on the agency side and on Pressloft, and they've had some great coverage here that they've popped in on their homepage.
So Nikki, one of the questions that always that brands always ask us is, am I allowed actually to use those logos on my website? If I get coverage in the stylist, am I actually allowed to share the logo?
Yeah, you have to get permission from them. Those logos are copyrighted by them. It's time consuming. So the other way that you can do it, and it's what we do a lot in Pressloft, is we just literally type it out. So it doesn't need to be their logo. You can just say as featured in Grand Designs or as featured in the Times. Often the newspaper,
what you mean?
Instead of the logo, yeah, without the logo, yeah. So you could just, literally type it out in different fonts. It looks a bit logo-esque, but you can't be ripping off the logo and making it look like it when it's not. Yeah, so you can definitely get that permission. That's absolutely no problem. It can just sometimes take a long time, and to be honest, the newspapers very, very rarely give it. The worst that generally happens is not necessarily a fine. It will be more that you're like a takedown notice. You cannot use our logo on your site, please take it down. It's just ethical. It's just the right thing to do, to ask them for permission to do that, or just type it out.
So the other question that I think people are wondering is, I got a piece of coverage in the stylist. Am I actually allowed to share that piece of coverage on my social media and on my website?
No, just don't do it. No, you cannot take a copy of your press coverage and put it on your website unless you have a license from the NLA or the CLA, depending on where the licensing is required. They are very, very strict. You might be a micro brand, you might sell one product, have one piece of press coverage on your social media or your website. If they find out about your coverage, you will very, very likely have a very heavy fine. I've known so many brands to get fined, and it's just not worth it. So there are ways around it. If you go over to Pressoft's social channel, you can see ways that we use the product in a little template with a nice frame on it, and it just says, as featured in X magazine on in May 2020. And it just is a way that no copyright, your images are your copyright, so it's all good. So just don't put copies of the press coverage on your website unless you've definitely got the licensing.
Great, thank you. That was very, very good. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, now that you spoke about PR, we always get questions about how do you actually find contacts? Like, I want to be featured in The Stylist, I want to be featured in Elle Decoration, I want to be featured in, all of those national and glossy magazines, but how do I get the contacts? Do you have any free ways and tips on how to find a journalist?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of very expensive ways to find journalists. So you can buy databases. There's some really great ones out there. We've used Bulio on the agency side years ago. Roxhill Media is another one, and they've just got more of a consumer side. So if you do have budget, do that. It will save you so much time. Pressoft doesn't have a database, but we showcase your products to our network of journalists, so it's a bit indirect. But loads and loads of free ways to do it. So I'm just going to jump on and share my screen now again. There we go. Right, hop over to Twitter. So
those are the free tips. Yeah,
these are free tips. Yeah, so this is not going to cost you a penny except your time. It's just so time consuming. There's no getting around it. If you don't buy a database, it's just really boring and very time consuming. So Twitter, although it's really out of trend as a social media platform in terms of promoting your own brand, it's a great resource for journalists. So what I'm going to do is just give you a couple of tricks and tips on here. So first of all, type in the publication that you want to be in. Most people in interiors want to be in Elle Decoration. Just pop the words in here, but do not click on the profile here. Just press enter and then navigate over here to people. So here you're going to see a full list of people over here who've put Elle Decoration in their bios on Twitter. So what I'd recommend doing is then choosing one of them that you really like. So I'm following a lot of these already. So let's just say Andrew. So let's click follow there, then click through to his bio. Click through on those three dots there. Go to add, remove from lists. And then create a new list and then pop in here journalists. And then next. You could keep that private, so that's up to you, and I'll show you why you might want to keep it private in a little bit. So I'm just going to go back here. Hold on a minute. Okay, so now you've done your Elle Decoration, you've done your name search. Now what I'd recommend is also searching for the text version of the handle, so Elle Deco UK, and I'm just going to type that in here, Elle Deco UK. Type that in there. Remember to also have the people tab on here, and you're going to get a slightly different list of people, so extra people here. So we've got Talib Chowdhury, Bethan Ryder, we've got some really, really lovely people, Ben Spriggs in here. Again, add them to your list and follow them. Now the third Twitter trick is hashtag journal requests. So loads of people know about this already. This is where you can see journalists use this journal requests hashtag on Twitter when they're looking for content or looking for people to comment in their articles. So if you just do a quick search, let's see what we get. Sometimes it's really random. So, okay, that's not too bad. In the latest, you get them out pretty much every few minutes, and you've got people parenting, you've got health tech, biotech, healthcare. So not massively relevant. You'd spend hours searching on that. So just make it more niche. So pop in whatever sector you're working in. So for us, it's interiors. And then here you might be lucky and get some more relevant people in here. So this one's looking for paints here. It might be also people looking for freebies as well. She's looking for an expert comment on space at home. Again, follow those journalists, add them to your lists, and then you'll start to build up a network of journalists that you can work with. So that's Twitter. Oh, the other thing is that once you start working with them, then use the direct message function and just send them a message, you know, when you've got something relevant for them, and just say, you know, hi, my name's Nikki from Pressloft. I'd like to work with you. I've got this great new product. Can I possibly send you a press release or a sample over? You know, the worst that's going to happen is they'll say no, or they'll just ignore you, but you will slowly build your relationships with them. And that really is what a lot of PR is about. So just before I stop sharing my screen, I'm just going to show you one more trick. So if we go over to Google, right, so I asked you, said, right, why don't you just put together a list of journalists yourselves? But loads of people have done this before. So unfortunately, you can't search through the lists on Twitter. So there is a little workaround that you use Google to do it. So I've got this here, which is a little bit complex to remember, and you might not be able to type it down, but I think Dana and Chris are going to share it in the chat. We'll also be able to share it on social media if you need to chat to us afterwards. But it's site:/star/lists, and then space, and whatever search terms relevant to your industry with the journalist. So for us, it's interiors journalists. And then shall I repeat that? It might be a bit slow.
No,
so
it's fine. I think.
all right, okay, fine.
Yeah.
They shared it in the chat. Great. Okay, and so the first one here is a list of journalists on Twitter.
So
and this one's got.
This is just telling Google to search for a Twitter list.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you exactly what that. Yeah, so basically it tells journalists exactly that. It tells Google to search for any lists from any company around that topic in Google, and then they'll present you back with a full list of lists on Twitter. So hopefully that will really help you dig down to people who've already done the work for you. So this one's a great one. It's the top of Google, and it's got Katrina Burrows, who's the interiors editor of the Times, Joe Levers. I mean, it's just got some great journalists in there. So again, follow them all and add them to your own lists. So hopefully that's really helpful there. And then lastly, just very quickly, you know, use the magazines themselves. It's just so many magazines, and they've got something called the masthead in it, which I can't show you because I've got to be, you know, top point on copyright, and I can't even show you a magazine on film. But if you open a magazine at some stage in the front or the back, they've got something called the masthead. And that's a big list of magazines, the journalists and the contributors there. And they'll have a generic email address in there, something like info@magazine or editorial@magazine. And just that will be the editorial assistant who will receive those emails. And they're your friends. They will allow you, they're the gatekeeper to all the other journalists. They'll allow you to pitch to them. They might even write articles themselves. So do, you know, start, even though it would be better to have the actual journalist email, do start with them. The reason I've shown you Readly is because this is an aggregator of lots of different magazines. So the best thing I could say is buy the magazine, support them. They're really struggling, you know, in this difficult time. But if you can't, then Readly, they also get paid from Readly per user who subscribes to them via here and opens them. So that's another good one there. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think so should we talk, or I rub it on some more about which products to promote, do you think?
So we always get the question from brands, you know, now that I have journalist contacts, what am I supposed to show them? What am I supposed to promote to them, and when? So if you can just speak about how to generate more coverage with having the right products.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is that it's the newest products that you've got and the latest launches are what the journalist really wants to hear about. Their job is news, so what's new? And start with that. But we really know that, you know, a lot of brands can't bring out products every month to talk about. And so there's different hooks and angles that you can use to really generate and push your coverage to the next level with older products, as well as use these little angles and these tricks to generate more coverage from existing products. So just to start with some very basic ones, use the seasons. So you've got spring, summer, autumn, winter. Use those seasons in your press release titles when you're promoting them. So I've got some really basic examples, and just to show you that, I mean, press releases and promoting your products doesn't need to be overly complex and wordy. So Loaf's new spring 2020 collection has landed. That was so popular. It's got a company name in there. It's got new, it's got spring 2020. The only thing it doesn't say is the specific product type, but most people will know Loaf anyway. They're a big brand. So that's a good one. Oh, you can always go to pressloft.com as well. pressloft.com/app/releases to search through our press releases and get some inspiration for how to write your own press releases. And you'll find it's not that complicated, but I'll take you through that in a bit. So we've got new products, we've got seasons. Then the next one is just before the start of the following year. So probably around October, November, I'd really recommend doing roundups of trends in your sector for the following year that fit in with your brand. So for example, this is our second most popular press release of all time on Pressloft. It was 8 interior trends to try in 2019. That was so popular. It's got the fact that it's trends, it's interiors, obviously. The numbers are quite nice. They love a listicle kind of style press release, and the year, which is an older one. Another one is top 3 interior trend predictions for 2020 by original style. Again, just a really nice way to push your coverage of older products for the following year or new product launches for the following year. Now, the next one are fashion seasons. So we're finding interiors and fashion are becoming really close, and they have been for at least 5 years. So you can use like autumn winter 2020 or spring summer 2021 for your promotions, and it will really, really help get that extra coverage from your press releases. So an example is from one of our 0 to 1 clients is SS 20 colours at Darlings of Chelsea. I mean, really not that complicated, but it did really well because it was clearly quite cutting edge and the styles and the colours did really well. So that's fashion seasons and new year launches. Next up with gifting periods. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So gifting periods. This is one most people should feel comfortable with it. You know, if you're a gifting product, you know that Mother's Day is big, you know that Father's Day is big, but there are other kind of more nichey ones like festival season, which although maybe not this year, but Halloween, wedding season, Christmas is obviously, yeah, Christmas is the big one. Lots of different ways that you can really use those seasons. Again, pop them in your press release title because it's going to get them opened way more than if you don't put that trend or season in, which helps me move on. Yeah.
Yeah. So just because we are now speaking about seasons and gifting and gifting periods. So if I'm a brand and I have a Christmas range I want to promote, when am I supposed to start doing the PR?
Oh my gosh, right. I would normally say June, July. We've had so many Christmas leads in May. This is unheard of. And I'm really sorry to freak everyone out, but I don't know what's going on this year. I really can't understand why it's happening, but we're getting loads of Christmas leads. So yeah, now is the time to start PRing. But ordinarily, Christmas is July, August for the long
3 to 4 months in advance.
Yeah. So actually we can talk a bit about lead times here. We have got a PR calendar, which we'll give away at the end. So the monthly titles normally work around 3 months ahead of the date that they're published. So a lead time is the gap between the time the journalist is writing on the article to when it's published. So roughly 3-4 months for one of the long leads. So the monthly titles like Good Housekeeping or Living, etc., they tend to work that far in advance for their print versions. Then you've got short leads, which is anything from the online versions to the titles. So like housebeautiful.com can turn something around in a day or a week. And then bloggers can do something same day. But, still look at a lead time of about 2 months for some of those to get the breadth from your press release, the breadth of coverage.
Nice.
Okay, so after gifting periods, the biggest one you can do is trends. If you can feature or hook your products into any key new trend, then really do take note of the next bit, because it will catapult your PR to the next level. We did a trend roundup, which you can see on our site, on Pantone Colour of the Year. Classic Blue it was this year, and we did it on the day it launched. We published this big grouping of products in that sector, including actually some of Top Draw's clients. Oh my goodness, we had, I think in the last count, it was 7,000 images downloaded. So that would have translated into probably about 2,000 pieces of press coverage for these Classic Blue products. And then all the stuff that came off the back of it that clients did themselves. It was huge. So Now I'm just going to take you through a couple of ways to research these trends, because it's not always easy to find out what's coming up. So I would recommend, and these are all free ways as well, apart from, you know, the cost of a magazine. So start with design magazines. We love them, you know, support them. They're fantastic. So people like Architectural Digest, Wallpaper, Vogue, Living, etc. Lovely titles. They do their research. They know the trends that are coming up, and they share that, you know, through their pages and their social media. So do keep an eye on them. Fashion shows and design weeks. So you might not be able to attend them. It would be nice if we could all go to Paris fashion shows and things, but most of us can't go. So look on Google for any reports that come off just literally after those shows, and you'll get all sorts of amazing trends off the back of those. Then I would say trend forecasters. Like, again, most of us can't afford to subscribe to trend forecasters. So WGSN and Pantone, they are really great on their social channels and their blogs. They've got loads of free trend reports and palettes that are coming up. We use those all the time, and they do extremely well. So I'd recommend following those guys. There's a couple of design blogs, and follow their social channels, so like Dezeen and wwd.com. And then in terms, there's a lot to be said about intuition and your own research. And like, when you're just on the streets and you can see someone who looks amazing, or someone's house that looks beautiful, or in the shops, you might be able to get a sense of some trends coming through. It's amazing. Celine, we've been to quite a lot of trend talks from the shows, and these amazing trend forecasters really value people's own intuition and their own trends that are coming through. So that's also a great source of finding new trends. Then there's trends.pinterest.com. So this is lovely. They've got all sorts of random things that people are pinning, but if you just, you know, filter down to the ones that are relevant to you, you can find some gems in there. And we often use those for our trend research on Pressloft. So we have for our clients, we've got a dashboard where we show all the top searches that things that journalists are looking for at the moment. So if you're a client, you see them, but obviously, you know, lots of you aren't clients. And we actually give away a lot of that information on our newsletter, which you can sign up at blog.pressloft.com. That's right, isn't it? You can just get a little pop-up. And if you sign up there, we'll send you a monthly roundup of all the trends that are coming up from the journalists, and also our own trend research. And then last but not least are the trade shows. They are brilliant. Top Drawer works with trend forecasters, and they really are brilliant trends. They're so good, and you can get all the information when you're there if you go, which obviously you should go, or you can go on their blog and they'll share lots of great information about it there. And so that's it. So that's all the summary of how we do trend research, and hopefully there's some nice free ideas there.
Mm-hmm. So the next bit will be about press release. So I know now that I know how to do PR, I have my journalist list, I know the trends, and I have the products for the trends. So now how do I set up my press release? If you can just give us a few tips on how to do a press release, that would be brilliant. We get this question all the time.
We do, don't we? And I think it's a shame. A lot of brands feel intimidated by a press release, but write really great blog content for their own blogs. There's very little difference. And if you can write about your products, you're not expected to be able to write the articles. The journalists are the writers, the journalists are the pros at that. You're just giving them the information about your product in a way that they can then use. So, you know, you don't need to use flouncy language. In fact, it doesn't help at all. So just bear that in mind. I'm just going to show you a press release template. We'll be sharing this in the downloads at the end, so don't worry about taking notes, but it just helps me structure what I'm going to say to you. So let me just jumped around. Hold on a sec. Share screen. There we go. Right, so that's the press release template here. So the heading is the bit that's going to get your email opened. It's the most important part, along with the images, in terms of you actually even getting in front of that journalist. So that's why that trend research that we mentioned and the seasons are really, really important, because that's what the journalist wants to know about. So
the heading is the title of your press release and the subject line
of the email. Yes. So email press releases are sent via email now, really. I mean, some people send them by the post, but not most don't now. So yeah, you'd pop this in an email. So the heading is 5 to 10 words. Don't keep it really, really short. Include the word new and launch, or launch if it's a new product. Include the product type so that the person is aware of what type of product is going to be within that press release, and include the seasonal trend, as I keep talking about, but it's just so important. So starting new planter launched by Flowers R Us, just some press release titles I've completely made up, perfect for spring. So you've got new in there, you've got the product type, you've got the brand name, which isn't actually necessary in the title, and you've got spring. So that would really help a journalist know what's coming in the press release. And then another one I've just made up is maximalist floral wallpaper collection from company name. Again, you don't need to include the company name, but you know, if it's short enough, you can add it in there. So maximalist would be a great trend from last year. Floral wallpaper, very clear that it's what it is. There's no mention of new in there, but I would put that in there if it was new as well. Then next on the list is the intro paragraph. So you pad out the header really with the trend, the season, the product description in more detail, the names, and any really interesting facts here. Nothing too woolly, just like keep it focused still. So is it eco or sustainable? Where was it made? And again, you must include the company name in this bit. The journalist will really need to know that. And then next up is the bit that will absolutely make or break whether you're going to get featured in the press. This is the image section. So you must put your low resolution in images in here. So the small image files. If you've got cutout images, so ones on a white background, put them in first and foremost. They're the most important ones. And then if you've got lifestyle available, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford to do a shoot, then put them in there as well. Cutout, so those images on a white background, will get used about 70% of the time. So just to let you know, you don't need to be spending a lot on shoots if you can't afford it. Do invest in good quality cutouts, and we've got some content on the blog which will help you, work out the best way of creating those images. Make sure those images are labeled with what the products are in them, so it's super clear, and make sure the price is in there, because quite often journalists have price points that they can work to. Some of them are luxury, they'll take any price, or they don't want too cheap. And then some of them have, a bracket, some of them like Your Home have quite strict price points that they will be dealing with. So it's very important that you put price in there. You must have high resolution images available though of anything that you feature in a press release. The journalist won't be able to use your images if they're low resolution. Now, I think Celine might ask me about high res and low res, and it's just quite complicated. But basically, we've got some content on the blog which tells you in a lot of detail what's high res and low res. But just as a very rough guideline, low res is something like under 100 kilobytes ish. High res is likely to be 2 megs and over. So just use that as a very, very rough, very in a scientific guide, and I think that will help. But like I said, we've got a really nice blog post on that to give it more detail. Then you've got 1 to 2 paragraphs. So then you just got fleshing it out a little bit. Bring the story of how you created that product. Why did you create it? Why are you different to anything else that's out there? What materials have you used? Anything unique about them? You can put dimensions in if it's relevant. Sometimes, particularly with art and glassware, it's really difficult to tell how big it is in the photography. So, add the dimensions in there. So if a stylist is calling your art print in for a shoot and it's this big versus this big, they're going to have a very different experience, and they won't have to ask you that information before they call it in. Then point 5 is just include a summary of your company. Some people don't do this. I really recommend doing just a little bit about what your company's about in there. Quite often a journalist isn't just doing a product piece, they're doing something that's a little bit deeper. And if they are, and you've got your product information, your company information ready, you will likely get a little bit more of that words in the article. So I think that's worth doing. Include your stockist website and a telephone number, and then finally include your press contact info. And lastly, I would always recommend, if you have samples available, do put it in the press release. It will make a staggering difference to the amount of coverage that you get. It's just most people can't afford to do sampling, especially on a wide level. So if you can, that's great. If you can't, don't worry. And then also say if you've got products available for shoots, which are normally returnable, so do pop that in there. So again, it's really clear if they're doing a shoot that you've got products to offer.
So Nikki, I think I got a question from someone on the chat asking about attaching images. So if I'm sending out a press release, am I supposed to attach images to the email?
I wouldn't, because yeah, if you've got a Google Drive link, do that, because that's great. Dropbox link, anything like that, pop that in with the press release. I personally really wouldn't attach high-res images to the press release. It's just, it can really overwhelm their inbox. But if you've just got one single image that goes, that's all you've got, you could probably get away with it. You'll find it a bit harder to do a mass email with attachments, I believe. I'm not sure if GMAS, we use GMAS for our mail merges, and sometimes you can attach and sometimes you can't. It comes across as a bit more spammy. So you just have to see what the delivery rates are if you're going to do that.
Okay, just on the press release, because I can see that we have a few questions on the chat before we move on to the next one. How many samples do you need to have available? This is a question from Caroline.
That's really great. As many as you can afford. You know, we work with sofa companies who can't sample, and actually some of them do. You know, if you've got a massive influencer with 1 million followers, they'll go, well, actually it's worth me giving them a sofa which costs me X to make. It's all about the cost to you. You know, if you're a reseller and you're reselling on brands, you're only getting a 10% cut. You're not going to be able to do that. If your production level is pence, then you can send samples out to everyone. And as a really, really rough guide, you're probably going to get about 30 to 50% more coverage if you sample, but most don't do it. So don't think that you need to sample to make it work. And you can cherry pick who you sample it to. If you do cherry pick, do not put samples available in the press release, because you're going to really annoy the people that you then say, oh no, sorry, I haven't got any samples for you. You know, it's like, oh, it's a bit cringy. So just cherry pick the ones that you offer the samples to.
So just really quickly, there is another question about the headline. This is from Mive. She's asking if should your headline be factual, or are journalists attracted to headlines that are a fun play on words? So do you need to be really creative, or do you just be very factual?
I would stick to the plan of product type, trend, new, that kind of format. I mean, it's up to, I mean, of course it's up to anyone. You can be fun. It's just, if you use too many words up of something which isn't very understandable, it's not necessarily going to get opened. But then there's someone like Red Candy. They do the most amazing press releases, and they're quite funny on their press releases. So it is a preference, but I would say it's the journalists who are the wordsmiths. So you don't need to do it. As you know, some people would find it intimidating, so you don't need to do it to be really successful, but do put the trend in there. If you are being wordy, still put that trend in there.
Okay, sorry, because there is another question about press release before we move on to the
hot topic.
So it was actually not about images. The question was from Emma Bryan. She's asking, do journalists like an attachment or just in the email body? So I guess that one. Yeah, but it's just not about images. I think it's more about the content. If you send out a press release, do you actually do you put the press release in the email body, or do you attach the PDF on the email? What do you think would be the best?
I personally have always embedded in the email, and it's simply a time factor. So I would always create it within the press release, within the email. So it's immediately visible to the journalist as they're opening. However, there are some journalists who prefer PDF, who then save those PDFs on file and then refer back to them later. It's just, you can do both. I mean, embed it in and attach the PDF. It's just, you've got to be careful about the size of the file, but that would be a good solution as well. But again, one of the other reasons I would have done it over the years is because it's harder to attach to a larger scale mail merge, because when we're working for clients, we have to send out lots of press releases to lots of different journalists in a short amount of time. So we tend to not put attachments in.
Brilliant. So we actually have lots of questions to get back to at the end of the webinar. So if anyone have any questions, just please use the chat, use your Q&A. We'll just go back to that in maybe 5-10 minutes. The last question I have for you is actually, you came up with that. If I'm a pro PR and I know exactly what I'm doing, do you have any expert tips for them? Like, what can they do to actually push their PR to the max?
Yeah, so the expert tips bit is I wanted to come up with something that was a little bit less Yeah, a little bit different. So expert tips or testimonials. I would say this is a way that you can show your expertise on whatever sector you're in. So, you know, we've got some people who own stationery brands here. We've got people who own furniture brands. So whatever sector you're in, you can become an expert in it, and you are an expert in it. So you don't need to be a doctor or a professor in it. It's just about giving some tips and advice, you know, like I'm giving some tips and advice here. It's along those lines, but for consumer related tips. So, I worked with a lovely, lovely brand called Peg and Board, Laura there, and they do this great storage solution. So one example of worked with her on the PR course actually, and around the coronavirus times which we're in, there are lots of people and lots of articles all about home offices. So I suggested that we do a press release on top tips for home office storage, and she put 6 tips together with some beautiful product photography, and which are their storage as well, so it's office storage, and that was picked up by publications in I think 6 countries in one day. So it did really, really well. So if you're a stationery brand, for example, you might want to do top pattern trends for next year, or even something like, you know, new Mother's Day gift ideas, or, you know, card ideas for 2020, that kind of thing, and then just put 3 tips or trends together. It's very much alongside the trends angle. Or if you're a kitchen expert, you know, you fit kitchens or you sell kitchens, you can do what's the top 5 kitchen appliances coming out next year. It might not be something that you sell directly, but it shows your expertise, and that really pads your coverage out just beyond your single products. It pads it out to you as the expert, or your company as the expert in the field, and it can give rise to more feature-led articles rather than just product-led articles. So hopefully with those few PR pros in there, that might help if you're not doing that already.
Thank you so much. We actually have lots of questions, and I think some of them are really, really brilliant.
Great.
So we get this question a lot, Nikki, at PressLoft. We work with lots of brands and retailers. So if I have the same products as a competitor, if I'm holding products from a brand, how is that about crediting? Am I allowed to do PR? Like how is it working if I'm a retailer and some other competitors have the same products? Can you tell us?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. Resellers, so the people selling other people's products, and effectively manufacturers, people but making their own products, they're quite different types of PR. I think manufacturers tend to get an easier ride because they're the ones that are selling it, and the worst case scenario is one of their resellers gets credited and they will still indirectly get the coverage. But resellers do really, really well. So a brand that I mentioned before, but I love them, work with them forever, Red Candy, they're resellers, and they have done so well. They just constantly push their press coverage out. It's all backlinks to their website, so it really helps their SEO. In terms of crediting, the journalist has to credit the reseller who's PRing to them, and 9 times out of 10 they do. Occasionally they'll miscredit and do the original brand, but you know, they want to support you if you're helping them do their articles generally. So it's fine, but you do have to be mindful that a reader might say, for example, a Alessi product, which is sold everywhere, so they might type in Alessi product, and if you're not at the top of Google, then you may waste that PR in some ways, because unless they're going to type in your brand name and your retailer name off the back of that article, you may lose it to a competitor in that instance, which is why your SEO optimization is really important if you're a reseller.
Okay, just before we share the link to all of the templates, I'm just going to ask, because we have 2 questions about sampling. So I'm just going to click on Answer Live. Here we go. So can you just tell us a little bit more what is sampling and why you should be sampling?
Okay, so imagine that you are selling a notebook, for example. There's something very different about seeing it in a press release and actually feeling it and going through it and feeling the quality. And that's all it is. It's about, you know, if you see something in a shop, you want to, you know, you get the sense of it. And journalists are no different to us, really. So if you sample it, you stand out from the crowd, because most people don't and can't afford to sample. It just is an extra level of care to that journalist. It's showing your product off in a really great way. You can do it in press shows, but they're very expensive. So I'd really recommend sending samples if you've got a very low price product. But again, cherry pick those really, really great journalists who you know you really, really want to work with, rather than just send it out blanket to everyone, unless you've got very affordable product and you can afford to do that.
Yeah, so if you don't have any contacts, don't send your products directly to random journalists. Just pick and choose who you want to send the samples to. Yeah.
I would, yeah. I mean, you can segment your journalist list once you've started building them into your top tier ones that you always sample to, and then your mid tier ones that you can't afford to sample to. So it's totally fine to segment your press releases and send them en masse just to different niches. And that's definitely what I've done over the years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So should we just go through lots more questions? I mean, is everyone still here?
I think we've got to share our downloadable pages first. So I'll just share the URL here, and then we'll have about 5 minutes to go through some more questions, I think. So this is the URL. So it's pages.pressloft.com/home and gift. And I think Dana and Chris are going to share that in the chat as well. So it's pages.pressloft.com/home and gift. And there, if you pop your email address in there, we'll give you a list of influencers to follow, a PR calendar, press release template, information on the new PR course, which I'm currently recording. And then if you scroll down here, you'll also get a link to having a 60-day free trial on Pressloft, which, no obligation, just try it out if you think it's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's pages.pressloft.com/home and gift. So should we just do a couple more questions and then
so I mean, you guys have been asking so many brilliant questions. I wish we could just stay here all day.
we can do some more blog content after this as well around some of these topics. If there's some recurring themes, we can get some content written.
Okay, just let me okay, so one of the question, actually, it's a bit we get that sometimes. I get many offers of paid coverage in magazines, especially in autumn for pre-Christmas campaigns. This is a question from Tanya, and she's asking if it is actually worth it.
So advertorial or adverts. So advertorial looks like editorial, which is the free articles in the magazine that aren't paid for. Mm-hmm. That's generally what PR that we do is about. The advertorials bridge that gap. It looks like editorial, but it's paid for. And then adverts are really, really clearly, adverts. It just depends on the audience. It depends on the demographic. It depends on the appropriateness of the readership. It depends on the imagery. It depends on the placement. It's no different to PR in that respect, and it depends on what your product value is. What's your return? If you made one sale, would it make that back? Would it make the value of that advert back? If you made 2 sales, would it make it back? And the issue that we've got with print through PR and advertising is the lack of clarity as to whether it's driven a sale. So it's really mixed. I know someone who's recently appeared in the Vogue advertorial bit. I think it's like a hot list at the back. And they said it was great for them, but they also then said as featured in Vogue, which although isn't strictly, it's true. I mean, they featured in Vogue, so they've paid for it, but they've still featured in it. And so they used it that way as well. And I actually didn't ask her about the sales off the back of it. But so unfortunately, I don't do a lot of advertising in that respect. But I think it's just the same measurement application in what's the return likely to be. And in terms of how many sales you're going to get off the back of each article or advert, it's very, very tricky to know. My husband had a gift company for a couple of years. And so it was really interesting. So he might have been in The Guardian and got maybe 30 sales of his gift boxes on one day. In another time, he'd be in the Times and get 5. And so, there is very much about managing expectations with PR and making sure that you use it in a variety of ways rather than just depending on the original sales.
Mm-hmm. Should we keep on going?
I think one more, otherwise we're going to be boring everyone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we really do have a lot of really amazing questions. Just 1 second. I'm just going to read that one. Okay, so this, you're going to love it.
Oh, no.
On average, how many sales should one make per press feature?
This is very much in line with the other one. So
question we get all the time. Yeah. Like we have been saying, we really want PR. We want to do PR. What am I going to get from it? So if you can just, I think we talked about the benefits of doing PR at the beginning, but if you can just talk to us about why I should do PR and maybe why I should keep on doing PR over time.
I think so. Was that question about how many sales am I going to get off the back of it?
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
basically, yeah. I think it's very much what I just said about the Guardian and the Times. It's about position on the page, timeliness. Are your images good? It's about the value. It's the RO. It's your what's the word? The percentage that you. Oh my God, I've completely gone blank. But you know the amount of money that you make per product. I've just gone completely blank. Yeah, the profit margin that you've got. It depends on so many different factors, but if you get in Stylist magazine, you are not going to sell hundreds of products in one day. And I think it's really important to understand that it's not a magic answer. I mean, hopefully there's someone who goes, I did, and you did brilliantly, but most people don't. And those wonderful moments are, not that frequent. So you have to be very, very realistic about what you're going to get and use it in all variety of ways that we've talked about to do conversion rate optimization and SEO and share it on your newsletter, share the information with all your customers. And there's lots of ways it does work, but you have to be realistic about not selling out overnight every time that you're in an Ideal Home magazine.
Nice. I can see that some Vein for Change, Evan, thank you. Nicola, thank you so much. Yeah, really good. We yeah, it's good. I don't know if I should just do one more or people are completely bored of us.
We've only lost a few, so maybe just let us know if we do one more, but we've got nothing else to say, so we're no offense if you guys want to head off now, but we can do a few more, and then just please do go if you want to go and get in that sunshine.
Yeah, really, really good question from Nick, which I think a lot of people are asking. A lot of people want to work with influencers and bloggers. They want to be featured on their social media channels. How do you actually approach a blogger? And I think this is a question from Nick. How are you supposed to do it? Because I'm a small brand, I don't know what to gift, and I don't know how much money am I supposed to give them a product, am I supposed to give them money? So first of all, how do you actually approach a blogger?
Yeah. So first of all, you've got who do you want to approach? I'm guessing, is it Nick that you just said, so has an idea of who he wants to work with? They love hearing from brands. I mean, don't get me wrong, especially if you're offering product to review or even better payment. If they're one of the very, very, very top tier bloggers, you're likely to have to pay, and they'll have a media rate card, they'll have information, and you can just ask how much does it cost to work with you. If you want to try first just by sending them product information in the form of a press release, do send it over. They definitely write free content, but it's not as frequent. These bloggers don't get any income from their blogs apart from paid blog posts or product reviews, and that's not even paid because they use the product. So you have to respect that this is a very different type of PR. This isn't journalists who get paid to work. This is their own blogs. This is their own babies, and they need to earn some money. Remember that they're a backlink as well that you're getting from a blog. So when you're analyzing, should I do this and work with them, and how much should I pay? This is a backlink which is going to be helping your Google search ranking. So it's not just a singular, how much do I get from that blog post at any one time? It's about the whole ecosystem of your marketing activities as well. So in terms of how much should you pay, it really varies. It's very difficult to say. Everyone has different rate cards, and so you can just ask them for that. What's your rate to work with you? You can say, I'd like to pay you £50 to do a product review, and start at kind of that point, no lower. I don't think anything lower than £50 is probably going to get their interest. Some of the bloggers that we work with charge £400 to £2,000 per blog post. In that respect, you need to think of it like, would I pay that amount to be in a magazine? And use those same levels of analysis. So who's your audience? Have you got any demographic information on them? Are they male or female? Are they this age group? Can you send me that information, please? And sometimes they might give you a Google Analytics screen grab, or they'll have like a portfolio of information for you. Have a look at their social influencers. It's a really obvious one, but just have a look at their social channels and see what kind of people are commenting. Are they your kind of customer base, or are they a bit different? Is their language the type of language that you use? Is their photography styling, and is their personal style a similar style to yours as well, to your brands, and you'll get a sense of who to work with. But I know most people want to know, if I spend £50, will I get the result? And that's just so difficult to say. It's often you don't get that many direct sales from working with smaller bloggers, but it can really surprise you what leads you get. And again, it's all about your margins. So if you've got very high margins and low cost on your product, it's probably really worth doing some gifting at least. If you sell sofas, then we tend to do paid placements instead, because the value is very different.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can also remind everyone that bloggers and journalists are craving for content. So don't be scared of like sending information, approaching people. It can be just a really short message. Hi, I'm Nikki from PressLoft. I don't know. I am, a company name, your name. I would like to work with you. It can be really, really simple. And if they don't get back to you, then just move on to the next and try another time maybe. Just make sure that there is a match between what you're doing and then their audience. Just because I think there is nothing worse than just, sending the same information to XX number of bloggers. But I think we do have brands and retailers, and always ask the question on how am I supposed to approach them. Just do it. Just send them a quick message, see how they reply and respond to your products, and then just go for it.
Yeah, great.
We have a few more questions. Should we do just the last one, Nikki?
I think last one now. Yeah.
Okay, so one from David Crump. You mentioned that you have seen much earlier press releases for Christmas this year. Is this driven by sellers pushing products, or do you think it's publications that are looking to move to Christmas content sooner?
Yeah,
So
I mean, who knew? Like, I do not know why. I don't know why, but we've just already seen leads from Homestyle and I've drawn a blank, but another one or two. So really, really, really early. And it's definitely driven from the publications, not from the sellers. And I'm not sure why at this stage. We might ask them actually. We should ask them and then do a post on it, because I think it's really interesting. It's definitely a first, because we were noticing the last 3 or 4 years, Christmas has actually been getting later in terms of when the journalists start. So it's been a real reversal this year. So it'd be good to know why. Sorry, I can't answer that in any more detail, but yeah, it's a funny anomaly for this year, which this year is just a bit of an anomaly anyways.
Yeah, definitely. So Caroline doesn't want us to go away. Please don't stop. Stick around. So I might just do one more question.
I think that's our strap line now. Just one more question.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, there is a lot of questions still. Yeah, so this is a really good question, and I think we do get that a lot on from our audience of brands and retailers we work with. Any tips on how to stand out in PR for products with high competition, wallpaper, wall covering, to get noticed by journalists? So if you have any tips, because we do know that a lot of companies do hold kind of like the same range of products, so it can be tropical. So what do you think they should do to just stand out?
So assuming that you're a reseller and selling lots of other people's products, and actually even if you're not, either way, it's the trends. It's being able to use those trends and hooking those products around those trends, and also being the first to do a press release on a very new collection from one of the brands that you're selling. So those two things, very, very new products and the trend-led items as well, really work. In terms of photography for wall coverings, swatches are great, but we have generally seen that good room sets are even better, particularly because you can't get a sense of scale so well with prints. Room sets do tend to work. Both are used, but room sets are better. I would consider looking at some mock-ups. Although journalists have said to me that they won't use mock-ups, our experience is that they do still get downloaded quite well if they're done really, really well. And there's some, we might have a blog post on it, but I think that there are all sorts of apps and websites out there which do rendering of your images and the products really easily, and you can do that and then download the JPEG that then you can use for your own marketing and on your own website, and they're really, really good.
Great. I think this might be the last question, Nikki.
I think we've done exactly an hour on the dot.
What we can do is also just share our email address. If any of you have any question, you can just drop us an email. We would be happy to help you with anything related to influencer marketing. I see that we have a few more questions about that. We have a few questions about wholesale and B2C PR. So if you have any questions, also a lot of small brands asking about just tips on what to do.
Okay, yeah,
so
drop us a line. Yeah,
we are happy to just get back to your email, but I think that would be
for today. So just info@pressloft.com, or there'll be emails in the chat as well, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you so much again to the Harrogate at Home and the Top Drawer Connected guys for having us on this brilliant webinar. Do please let us know of any other content ideas that you've got. Drop them an email, and just thanks so much for sticking around and joining us today.